This extract is from chapter 30 of my trilogy, The Legend of Arthur, a tale combining historical possibility with the enduring Dark Age belief in the power of magic and superstition. Narrated by Gildas the Monk, this segment concludes the second volume, The Fellowship of the Round Table, with the rediscovery of Mordred, Arthur's incestuous son from his sister Morganers, and now the cat's paw of an evil dynasty of Morgan le Fays. Silently Arthur of the Britons regarded in sorrow the corpse of the Lady Dorcas, the woman who, if he had not loved spiritually, had enjoyed on so many levels, as lover, friend, adviser, go-for, and almost as mother of his child. It was 2 days since Lancelot's departure. There had been an eclipse. Now his mistress had been found dead in the woods. It was not a good week. "Who found her?" imperiously demanded. "I did." A young man confidently stepped forward. Full grown, but barely, he wore a sword and good quality raiment of Saxon manufacture. "What's in your bag, boy?" suspicious steward Bors questioned. The head of her murderer. The stranger carefully pulled back the flap so Queen Guinevere could not see. Just as well, she burst into tears at the fate of her sister, and at her probable responsibility. Or was it her own fate? If their secret was now safe, she was now almost alone at court. Could she longer trust the abbess? "Who was he?" The triumvirate of Arthur, Bors, and Gawain peered at the lifeless face as the royal guard stood with spear points raised, hearing and seeing all, yet passive like waiting statues. "A passing miscreant," Bishop Daffyd now soothed. "This young traveller heard her attacked as she wandered in the woods, killed the murderer, and reported it to us at the abbey." "I bear witness to that." The abbess of Carlisle, Le Fay in disguise, completed the conspiracy. To have ordered the death of her own son. Part of her hated herself for it, but a greater part knew she'd get over it, for Tobias had been weak, defective, and she most certainly could not afford to have him identify her as Goddess Anu incarnate. Besides, his termination should purge the last vestiges of light from her soul. "I saw the site of the murder," she sought to convince the doubters by playing on Arthur's Christian superstitions. "At the instant I beheld it, the blessed St. Kylie sent me a vision. It was so." "Then you have administered my justice." Crossing himself, Arthur eyed the confidently silent newcomer. "What use further investigation? Who are you, stranger? Why do you come into my land in Saxon garb?" The man looked at the abbess, who looked at the bishop, who looked at Arthur. "Tell him, my son," Daffyd ordered. "You have nothing to fear, for the Lord is over you." "What nonsense is this?" Steward Bors suspiciously interjected. "Do I seem familiar, sire?" Mordred looked for the first time directly into the eyes of his natural father, and in an instant Arthur knew. "It cannot be!" the deflated king exclaimed dread terror. "Ruin upon ruin upon ruin to all his plans." "Cannot be what?" The rash Gawain instinctively drew his sword. "Oh yes, it can be, sire." Mordred tactically knelt and produced from around his neck the ring of the once and future king's mother to back up his claim. "Behold the talisman of Queen Igraine, wife of King Uther Pendragon, passed on to her daughter Princess Morganers, passed on to my mother." At this declaration Guinevere swooned in shock. "In Christ's name, take her away!" Arthur displaced confusion by ordering the duty lady-in-waiting remove the queen, for he too recognized the one true ring. "In the name of the Holy Catholic Church, I vouch for him," Bishop Daffyd solemnly intoned. "He is who he claims." "You see," the kneeling youth quietly affirmed, "I am Mordred, a loyal son of King Arthur." "Son of the king?" The way Gawain had heard it, a kitchen slave had impregnated the princess. "There is an answer, let it be," the conspiratorial bishop carefully misquoted. "It is time for the truth, is it not, my liege?" Where was Merlin when you needed him? There was no denying it now, short of slaughtering the head of the Church of Britain in open court. "If Mordred you truly be, then you are my bastard." Arthur could see stunned eyes suddenly upon him, the secreted hope dead and buried, very much alive. You are a thing born against my wishes by the darkest, foulest magic known to man." "It is as the king claims," the abbess declared. "As a church mother, I know from personal experience there are many foul witches in Britain." Quite right too, she was the worst. "A witch made you?" Steward Bors rapidly re-evaluated his sovereign. "Mordred was conceived by his own sister, not of the king's wishes." Again, the abbess, Le Fay in disguise, should know. Her mother, Morgan the Younger, had cast the spell. "You see, it wasn't my fault," Arthur protested his innocence to his stunned followers. "It was the work of Satan," the bishop pronounced as he made the sign of the Holy Cross. "All sins in this matter are forgiven. Let the dread truth be told and the devil be shamed. Let confession proclaim its triumph over falsehood." "They do look suspiciously alike," Gawain noted in an aside to Bors. "Sire, we must convene a full meeting of the Round Table," the steward insisted some temporal discussion. "Hardly necessary to trouble the fellowship," Arthur tutted. "Just pay him off." "Do not be afraid, sire," Morgan conspired in her guise as Holy Mother. "There are no guilty here, only victims. Let reconciliation and acceptance reign." "Might I be permitted to see my brother, your rightful heir?" The still supplicant Mordred chose his words with great care. Deep silence fell as Arthur saw the full extent of the coup, the fait accompli. What should he do now? What could he do? "Very well, assemble my knights," he decreed. "Let us hear this thing in full court." There had to be some way to spin this disaster to his own advantage. Thus it was in the year 530 the Fellowship of the Round Table failed its 8th and greatest test. It permitted a cancer of deepest darkness to prosper within its bosom. Yet if the end was nigh there was yet hope, and Galahad be his name.